This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy, with the plea deal entered into by Trump former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. Is it time to impeach Trump? That was the question that was on the minds of all the leftists that moderate the Sunday talkies, including Chuck Todd over at Meet the Press, speaking with Senator Dianne Feinstein, who may be facing a primary challenge from billionaire Tom Steyer, whose entire reason for existence is to impeach Trump. Here's what DiFi had to say in response.
Concern rises with the day. The concern about this White House rises.
About the president? Your concern about this president's ability to do the job rises by the day?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I've been here for 25 years now. There is a kind of instability, unpredictability. It's one issue after the other. We've got major problems in the world with our allies now, in the Middle East, with North Korea. It goes on. And I think that this president is just precipitating more and more angst that's going to lead to serious discord.
Angst and discord. Are those high crimes and misdemeanors now?
Angst and Discord's name of your junior high school band.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Jay Giles band, cover band. Yeah, the angst and discord and hot spots around the world. North Korea just became a hot spot.
Yeah, we never had
China, the
problems
Middle
with-
East. I mean, this is so absurd. DiFi seems to be trying to cover her hindsight with respect to potential primary challenge from Steyer. But, you know, amid all of the fanfare from the left, like we finally are on our way to impeachment, when pressed for the particulars, what does DiFi offer? Abstractions like discord and stability. Does that speak to a relative weakness of the argument and the weakness of the argument connected to the weakness of Mueller's case to this point? For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by our friend, former United States Attorney General, now the Dean of Belmont University School of Law in Nashville, Belmont, Amy, the mascot.
The Bruins.
Correct. Very nice.
Been
Alberto
listening.
Gonzales. Alberto Gonzales joins us now. Attorney General Gonzales, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning. It's good to be back.
Good to have you back. And so what about what you're hearing in terms of the quality of the response with respect to distilling the implications of the Flynn plea deal from politicians and partisan pundits and prosecutors?
Well, everyone's going to be making comments that, well, not everyone. That's a broad generalization. I think a lot of people are making comments just based upon what suits their political interests. But I do think it's fair to say that there are some serious questions that have been raised as a result of the Flynn plea deal, and obviously Bob Mueller has a very broad mandate here, and it's never good to have the FBI or the special counsel investigating you, and I know the folks in the White House have got to be a little bit nervous, although hopefully the chief of staff has given, and the president have given clear directions to the staff in the White House that the best way to serve the American people is to do the job of the American people, and hopefully they're focused on doing that. But human nature being the way it is, I think there are probably some people that are nervous about what's going to happen.
Well, right, but the question is, should we all be nervous? Because as part of what's happening, as Andy McCarthy argues in National Review, that the Mueller investigation is politics. It's not law enforcement. It's not counter-intel.
Well, I don't know whether or not it's fully. It's hard to say that it's fully politics when you've got at least two people that have pled guilty to crimes that are related. Of course, they are related to making false statements. But like every investigation, it's sort of building blocks, and so Mueller is built using these building blocks and using certain individuals to get certain information, and building this wall, this creation higher and higher to see where it goes. As I said, he's got a very broad mandate, and I'd be a little bit nervous, quite frankly. if in fact there has been wrongdoing. That's the key. Has there been wrongdoing? And we don't see, there's been no evidence of wrongdoing to date, but that's what the investigation is all about. I worry about people saying, well, there was no collusion, nothing wrong happened here. How do you know that unless you've done an investigation? And that's what Mueller's trying to find out, whether or not, in fact, everything was done in a way that was not inconsistent with law.
Well, why do you think Michael Flynn felt the need to lie, and who do you think is further up on the food chain that they're trying to get?
Well, I gather that typically someone lies in order to protect themselves or someone else from possible prosecution related to wrongdoing. And so I'm assuming that's why Michael Flynn may have made some misstatements in connection with this investigation. And the reason that he accepted the plea is because he wanted to either protect himself from more serious charges or protect others, like the speculation that perhaps it related to trying to protect his son from possible prosecution, or may have related to perhaps protecting someone else higher up in the administration. That remains to be seen. It's I guess it's fun. It's speculating about what may happen here, but there's still so many unanswered questions. It really is hard to try to predict where this thing's going to go.
Alan Dershowitz suggests that the plea agreement with Flynn is actually a signal of the weakness of Mueller's case, because you don't want a target like Flynn to plead out to lying to the FBI. You want him to plead out or to provide evidence in advance of some sort of a larger conspiracy among higher ups, and that obviously is foreclosed based on this plea deal and his credibility as a witness to anything more than his own misstatements to the FBI, his own lying to the FBI. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, we don't know what Flynn has given up. That assumes that we've gotten all the information that we have from Flynn, that Flynn can provide, and that none of that information can be useful in indicting anyone else up the food chain. We just don't know what Flynn has provided. And also, as part of my understanding is, as part of the deal here, is that Flynn is obligated to continue to provide any additional information that may come to light, or to confirm any additional information that may come to light. So I don't know whether or not Mr. Dershowitz's assessment is accurate or not. Again, it's hard to speculate about the direction and the scope of an investigation. You never know what information has led to what information, and you just don't know what information the special counsel has today and his plan of action, how he may be going a certain direction for reasons that we just can't comprehend, and only until later on when we discover or we learn about where the investigation has gone do we understand exactly the motives for questioning someone or giving someone like Flynn a plea deal. It's just hard to, again, as I've said repeatedly in this interview, it's just really hard to predict or to know the scope and direction of an investigation like this one.
What did you make of President Trump's tweet on Saturday when he said, "I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI"?
Well, some people have said that that's evidence that the president was trying to obstruct justice by asking Comey to back off of the investigation. I'm not sure that I agree with that. I think, again, the president did not direct Jim Comey to back off on the investigation. He asked about it, and he asked in a way that was kind of like, "Hey, can't you see your way clear to dropping this investigation of Flynn?" So I don't know. I don't agree. I'm not there yet with respect to obstruction of justice. I think that's certainly on the table, and I think if I were in the White House, that would be probably the thing that would make me most nervous, based upon the information that I don't have, as well as the information that I do have.
Although his attorney, one of Trump's attorneys, John Dowd, later clarified that tweet that he said he authored to kind of explain.
Well, I found that.
Yeah.
That's
because
weird.
now he's made himself a witness. That's the thing that really complicates things, because Mueller's going to want to now sit down with that attorney and question him, because he's now interjected himself into this investigation.
Okay.
And I think that was foolish.
Okay.
And
why is it foolish?
Because now he may have to back away from representing the president. He may have to get his own counsel, and you have to. Why would he do this? I don't think that the tweet was actually very helpful to any ends that were important. Are you still there?
Yeah,
we're here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm hearing some beeping. I'm sorry. I don't think the tweet was very helpful. But we'll see what happens. I think this is something that Bob Mueller is going to want to get to the bottom of, find out exactly what happened. It seems strange that the lawyer would interject himself at this particular time. But again, there's lots of strange about what's going on.
But the American people have been under the impression that President Trump has authored his own tweets this entire time, and now all of a sudden my assistant attorney has control of my Twitter account. It seems so strange.
It does seem it seems contrived, quite frankly. But again, that's why I'm sure Mueller's going to want to question the lawyer and find out what's going on here.
I know, it's difficult to comment on what we don't know, and you have to kind of let the process play out and then see how it was handled. But sort of looking at this in the rearview mirror, allowing it all to play out without comment is also a way to, fail to provide accountability. And I think you have to assess the quality of the investigation in real time. So, for example, Trump's other tweet about the FBI's reputation being in tatters runs concurrent with the announcement that this veteran FBI investigator, Peter Strzok, is off the Mueller team because derogatory text messages about the president between he and a colleague, who apparently was his mistress, good grief, were identified. And so what about the questions about the integrity and the objectivity, post-partisan quality of the Mueller investigation? Are those fair questions?
Those are always fair questions. You always want an investigation to be viewed as completely impartial and fair. But I would just caution that to question the integrity or to say that the FBI has a poor reputation based on the actions of one individual is just as inappropriate as saying that a transition team or an entire White House, there's something wrong with the integrity of a White House or entire transition because of the actions of one individual. I think we need to be careful about that, to paint with such a broad brush. Based on my experience, personal experience, the folks that work in the FBI are just extraordinary men and women, and they do extraordinary work. And I do not believe that the reputation is in tatters, that the morale is bad, quite frankly. And in some ways, I think those comments from the president were unfortunate. I think the president, as head of the executive branch, is entirely entitled to express his views. These are the kind of views that I think might be more effective expressed privately, directly to the FBI director or the attorney general, and then let them deal with that privately. But again, as head of the executive branch, he certainly is entitled to have an opinion. I just question whether or not that was the most effective way to express his concerns about the work of the Bureau. If he really believes that, I happen to disagree with that. I have a great deal of confidence in the FBI. And again, the actions of one individual cannot, in my judgment, based on my experience, alter my views about the work of the men and women in that bureau.
Well, that's fair. I certainly agree with kind of not painting with a broad brush, and you could argue the Inspector General's office found these text messages, and thus the action that was taken by Mueller's team. But he wasn't just one individual at the FBI. He was the lead investigator on the Clinton email investigation, and he was central to the Trump-Russia investigations. And so, you could say that they found somebody who had acted inappropriately, they took action, but combined with all of Comey's statements over the last year, and situations like this and the donation history of some of the people on Mueller's team, you can also understand why people have a raised eyebrow with respect to some of this.
Well, no question, and that's why at the beginning of my comment I said it's very important that any investigation. You want you don't want there to be questions about the impartiality or the fairness of an investigation. And so it is legitimate to look at these kinds of questions. There's no question about that. I just simply say, painting with a broad brush I think it is also unfair to a lot of good people within the Bureau.
He is former U.S. Attorney General, counselor to the president. He's also the current dean of the Belmont University School of Law in Nashville and the author of the book True Faith and Allegiance. Alberto Gonzales, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. You bet. Bye-bye.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.